Jesus Christ, that's Jason Bourne. Hi, David O'Sullivan here, and in this video I'm going to be doing a review of Jason Bourne. Now, Jason Bourne is a spy action thriller and the fifth instalment in the long-running spy franchise. Directed by Paul Greengrass, who returns to the franchise, the film stars Matt Damon, who comes back as Jason Bourne and marks the first time that they've collaborated since 2007's The Bourne Ultimatum. The film also stars Tommy Lee Jones, Alicia Vikander, Vincent Cassel, and Julia Stiles. Now, going into this film, I was very excited. I was really looking forward to it. I'm a massive fan of the first three Matt Damon Bourne films. I'm not that much of a fan of the Bourne Legacy. I thought it was okay. I didn't hate it. It was alright, but it was nowhere near as good as the first three, starring Matt Damon. Those are just some of the best modern action movies ever made. And the fact that Matt Damon was coming back as Jason Bourne with Paul Greengrass as director, I was so pumped to see this film. I rewatched the first three in preparation for going to see this film, and I was really even more pumped to go and see it. And the film wasn't as good as I wanted it to be. It wasn't as good as I think it could have been, but it was still good. I was probably more disappointed than the average person because I was so excited and because I had such high hopes for this and because I think it could have been so much better than it was. But that is not to say that it was a bad film. It was still a good film. It was still a solid action flick. It was just nowhere near as good as those first three. However, that being said, there was a lot about this film that I did really like. It's that some of the things that I didn't like really bugged me and got my nerves, but I'll get onto negatives later. First up, positives, things that I liked about this film. Of course, the characters and the actors portraying the characters was a big highlight, because even though I wasn't a massive fan of the story, I don't think the story was anywhere near as engaging or as compelling as the story in those first three films. What made up for that was an abundance of great performances from these actors and some really well written characters. Of course, we got Matt Damon back as Jason Bourne. That was probably the biggest highlight of this film, is that we had Matt Damon back once again in this role as Jason Bourne, and he really knocked it out of the park once again. He just such a great job in this role as his character. You really buy into it and you really believe he is that character, how he's this kind of silent but deadly kind of assassin, but he kind of does what he wants. He doesn't take orders from anyone anymore. He does his own thing, and it's so great seeing him once again fighting back against the authorities, doing his own thing, taking his revenge out on these guys. It was a little similar to what we've seen before, but as far as Matt Damon's performance goes, he once again really knocked it out of the park and really showed us why he, became such a big movie star to begin with. This was the role that made him such a big star, his first big action movie role, and he did such a great job once again in this film. And some new additions to the franchise as well. We had Tommy Lee Jones and Alicia Vikander, who both did an incredible job. Tommy Lee Jones is doing his typical kind of, Tommy Lee Jones thing, but he was great. And Alicia Vikander was really great as well. I really liked her character in this film as well, because Tommy Lee Jones, although he delivered a great performance, it was the kind of stereotypical evil rogue kind of CIA boss who needed to be taken down. But with Alicia Vikander's character, it was a different kind of character that we haven't seen before in any other kind of Bourne film. She wasn't just this kind of rogue kind of a government official. She wanted to work her way up the career ladder. She was kind of in it for herself. She didn't really care about anyone else she was working for. She wanted to just get to the top, and she wanted to be in control and do what she wanted to do. So that was kind of refreshing to see. She wasn't just some other kind of, like I said, rogue government official who was kind of just this stereotypical evil character who wanted to do bad things and wanted to take him down. She had a different kind of perspective and a different kind of point of view, and she wanted to do something kind of differently. She wanted to bring Matt Damon in. She didn't want to just take down Bourne and take him out like everyone else. That provided a nice change to the story with her character, which I really liked. And of course, the action sequences, with it being an action film, with it being a Bourne film, you really wanted to deliver on the action sequences. And with Paul Greengrass back as director, I was really hoping for some great action sequences. And luckily, this film did not disappoint. It really did deliver on the action sequences. Although it wasn't overstuffed and overloaded with 10 tons of action sequences, the action sequences we did get throughout the film were great. They were filmed really well. They were really cool to watch. I mean, obviously Paul Greengrass has got his signature kind of handheld, kind of almost shaky cam kind of style, but it doesn't bug me that much because that's what makes it feel like a Bourne film. Although it's kind of like a kind of guilty pleasure thing, because although I'm not a massive fan of that kind of style, I don't necessarily mind handheld camera, but when it gets a little bit shaky where you can't really see what's going on, that sometimes can get a little annoying. But with this film, you can kind of give it a pass, and with the Bourne films, because it's what makes it feel like a Bourne film. It's Paul Greengrass' signature style. It separates it from other kind of stereotypical action blockbuster movies because it gives it this almost documentarian type feel to it, and the way in which it's filmed. It's not overly dramatic. It's filmed in a way that makes it feel very grounded and very kind of realistic. It makes it feel like you're witnessing real events. And of course, that's another positive, the feeling of realism you get with these films. And this film once again achieves that. It doesn't go too over the top. It doesn't go too over dramatic. It keeps it very real again, like with the previous three. You know, it never goes too far. It never goes too outrageous or too over dramatic. It keeps it feeling very real, very grounded. I mean, there's some things that do happen that are quite far-fetched and over the top, but they still feel very real. It's almost kind of heightened realism. It still feels like, wow, this could happen in the real world today. And that's what makes the Bourne films kind of more thrilling and more exciting to watch, because even though it's not as over the top or as, you know, outlandish as some other action movies, the action that we do get is so cool to watch, because not only is it really cool action, but it's like, wow, this could actually happen. This action could actually go down in a real world today, and that's what makes it even more kind of thrilling and exciting to watch. And that brings me on to my other positive, which is, of course, that there's not that much CGI. You know, I mean, I'm pretty sure there probably was CGI used here and there, but it's not as overstuffed and overloaded with CGI as a lot of other big action blockbusters that come out nowadays. It feels very, like, once again, real, and I think that's because they use a lot of practical effects. You could tell that a lot of what they were doing, a lot of what you could see on film going down in the action felt and looked very real, you know, and that adds once again to the realism, that it feels very real because it looks real, you know. It doesn't look fake, it doesn't look like it's overloaded with 10 tons of CGI. It looks very real, and you can buy into it even more because you're not there thinking, oh, this is CGI, this doesn't look very good, this looks fake. You're watching it thinking you're watching real events because it looks real. That's how good it is, and that's how well done it is. And finally, my last positive is the fact that Vincent Cassel's character, the Asset, who again is a foil for Jason Bourne, who's the kind of the antagonist, the physical antagonist anyway, that Jason Bourne is pitted against. I like the fact that his character was given a little bit of a backstory, and he was a little bit more fleshed out than, say, the hired guns in the previous films, because in the previous Bourne films, the guys he gets pitted against are just kind of random, you know, thugs, which we don't know anything about, and they're just there, hired to take down Jason Bourne, and Jason Bourne has to take them out. Whereas in this film, he was still a kind of nameless kind of assassin, but at the same time, he was given a little bit of a backstory and had a kind of connection to Jason Bourne, which kind of made it more personal. So he wasn't just this random guy he needed to beat up because he was killing people and he needed to stop him. He was a guy who he had actually had personal connections to, so that even made it even more kind of thrilling and exciting and dramatic, because not only is he someone he needs to take down, but he's got personal connections to him. They kind of got a shared backstory in a sense. So that was another thing that I really liked, that they changed up slightly a little bit. But now getting into negatives I have for this film, I do have only, I think, 2 or 3 negatives. They weren't massive problems, but they did get on my nerves a little bit. Firstly, there's this separate side story, this other kind of subplot and storyline involving this character called Aaron Kapoor, I think. It's played by the guy who was Rick in Nightcrawler. He plays this almost kind of Mark Zuckerberg kind of character who's created this new kind of social media online platform thing. And that whole storyline, I didn't dislike the storyline, it's just that it felt out of place. It didn't feel like it needed to be in this film. It didn't feel directly connected to the larger events in the film. It didn't really feel like it was part of the rest of the film. It felt like it was from almost like a different film, and they kind of like shoehorned it in there. I really didn't understand why it was in there. The only purpose that character and that storyline served was getting everyone to Las Vegas at the end of the film. That was it. So they could have just introduced something else in the film to get them to Las Vegas, and then they could have just completely removed that storyline. And by removing that storyline, it wouldn't have harmed the film at all. It probably would have made the film better, because it kept getting a little distracting every time it cut back to that that character and that storyline, because it's like, why does this need to be in the film? And another negative I have is the fact that the reason Bourne is going after the CIA in this film once again is because of something from his past, an event from his past that he forgot that he's now remembering. And that kind of bummed me out a bit, because I thought the whole purpose of this film was the fact that he's remembered everything now, and now they're going to do something different. But in the end, they kind of just ended up doing the exact same thing. He remembers an event from his past, and now he's going after the CIA and wants to take them down again. I think in terms of how the film ends, it ends really well actually, and a really nice setup for a potential follow-up. And I really hope there is another one after this, because I think with a potential sequel, they could do something different. It's not going to just be Jason Bourne going after a rogue CIA boss and taking down the CIA. It will be something different. There'll be a different kind of relationship there, and a different kind of conflict. I don't want to spoil the ending, but it ends in a nice way, setting up a potential follow-up. But like I said, with this film, it's once again Jason Bourne going after the CIA. He remembers an event from his past. He's angry with them. He wants to take them down. He wants to take down this rogue CIA boss. So, you know, at the end of the day, it was still revolving around the same thing, which we've seen 3 times before. He's forgotten something. Now he's remembering it. Now he's going after them. So, you know, overall, Jason Bourne may not quite reach the heights of the first Bourne films, but it is still leaps and bounds ahead of the Bourne legacy. With a bevy of interesting characters and engaging performances, and an abundance of incredible action sequences, Jason Bourne is a solid film and a great action flick. I'm gonna give Jason Bourne 4 stars. I was really expecting this movie to be absolutely amazing. I really think it had the potential to be as good as those first 3 Bourne films, if not better. Even though it was good, and even though I did like it, it could have been so much better. Like, I think it was a good film, and I think it was a good action film, but I really feel like this had the potential to be one of the best action movies of the year, one of the best films of the year, but in the end it was just good, but not as great as it could have been. So there we go, that wraps up my review of Jason Bourne. Have you seen the film yet? And if so, what do you think about it? Let me know down below, I'd love to know. And as always, if you like this video, make sure to click subscribe to see more. But for now, I've been David O'Sullivan. I'll see you next time.